welcome to the January 5th, 2022 Walton County Technical Review Committee meeting. We've got a lengthy agenda this morning, and I would just like to start out this year reminding everyone that this is a business meeting. It's an administrative meeting of the Walton County Planning Department. We conduct a lot of business here. And I expect everyone in this room to remain civil and be respectful. And if you can't abide by that simple rule, we will have you removed from the room. Just want to make sure everybody understood that. Start off, we're going to be respectful to one another. There are probably going to be some differences of opinion because every one of these proposed projects is somebody's dream. And every one of these proposed projects probably has a neighbor that denial of the project is someone's dream also. But we're going to be respectful to one another, and we're going to conduct this business meeting in that manner. And with that said, do we have any other announcements this morning? Then we'll move forward with review of the minutes from December 15. Do we have any adjustments to those minutes? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as written. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed likewise? Hearing none. The minutes from December 15 are approved. We'll move right into project reviews, and we have a number of requests to table or continue. Let's see, we'll take those in the order of the agenda this morning. Emerald Coast Creative Concepts, we have a request to table. Can we have a motion to table?
Motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is tabled. It can come back when it's ready to be reconsidered. Number 3, the Destin Land Connection minor development. We have a request to continue this item to January 19, 2022. Can we have a motion to continue?
Motion.
Motion and a second.
Second.
And a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to January 19th at 8:30 a.m. in this location. The next item, number 4, the Nelly Preserve minor development. We have a request to continue this item to January 19. Can we have a motion at the dais? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to continue to January 19. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to January 19, 2022 at 8:30 a.m. in this location. Agenda number 5, the Tall Pines Daycare Edition. This minor development, we have a request to table this item. It can come back once it's ready to be heard again. Can we have a motion to table?
Motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed likewise? Hearing none. This item is tabled. It can come back when it's ready. Item number 6, the Finch small-scale amendment with rezoning. We have a request to continue to February 16, 2022. Can we have a motion to that effect?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
This item is continued to February 16, 2022 at 8:30 a.m. in this location. I do have a question. We have a related developer agreement, Bob. Agenda item number 16.
I thought possibly we could, it's up to you, but I left those on thinking that we could get those ready for the PC to get those moving. The small-scale amendments are just lacking administrative stuff that they've missed. But we can continue them if you'd rather.
These are companions. If we're continuing the actual subject of the developer agreement, we need to continue the development.
Okay, that's fine. That'd be 16 and 17.
17 is a different project, or is it the same project?
It's a different project that didn't make the agenda also.
Okay, well, we will continue both of those as agenda items.
Yes, sir.
Continue in the order of the agenda for the convenience of our minutes. The next item is agenda number 7, the Fair Winds RV Small Scale Amendment with rezoning. We have a request to continue that item to February 16. Can we have a motion to continue?
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to February 16, 2022 at 8:30 a.m. in this location. And I think we have the companion minor development number 8, request to continue the Fair Winds RV Park to February 16, 2022. Can we have a motion to that effect?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to February 16, 2022 at 8:30 a.m. in this location. I think we'll take the rest of the continuances in the order of the agenda. Next agenda item is agenda number 9, the Draper Townhomes. This minor development is reviewed by Rosanna Edwards. Rosanna, if you could introduce it for us.
This is Draper Townhomes. This is project number MIN 21-000046. This is a minor development application submitted by Emerald Coast Associates on behalf of Draper Townhomes LLC, requesting to develop 6 townhomes with 147 square feet of fitness area on 0.82 plus or minus acres with a future land use of mixed use and a zoning district of village mixed use. The property is in District 5 and is located at the location in your staff report, and also the parcel number in your staff report. I would like to first add that the 147 square feet of fitness area has been removed from the plans. Now, in your staff report, you'll see a lot of the planning comments have been addressed based on the latest site plan, which you also have. You should have also in your hand a separate memorandum from Andrea, who did check on the, verified the rear setback based on the dimensions that she was provided, which in this case would consider Blue Wave Drive as the rear setback. If you could enter this information into the record along with the staff report. But lastly, I did want to mention that I did reach out to the building official regarding the stories. His comment was if the ground floor is entirely open, excluding the stairs and the AC closet, this would in fact be considered a 3-story, so I wanted to make note of that. Lastly, I did receive updated comments from engineering and public works, and I think the only thing outstanding is Saltwater Fire, if they had any additional comments regarding the last resubmittal. I'm sure the applicant can elaborate unless you have any further questions for me.
Thank you, Rosanna. We'll hear from the applicant.
Sean Humphrey, Emerald Coast Associates. We've sent back the response to comments from last TRC. I would like to note that the building height in the architectural plans has changed. Instead of doing the exemption for undue hardship, we are taking the building height allowed based off of the average grade of the footprint of the building. So we had to adjust the building height. We've done that. So our building meets that requirement of 50 feet below the average grade of the site.
Thank you, sir.
And then we've added the extra sidewalk on Blue Pine Boulevard. It is a 3-story building because we've updated architectural plans to call out no garage door, open knee walls. Unless there's any questions directly for me, we ask to approve this.
I understand the determination from the building department based on the building code definition of stories. Here's one of my concerns about that. If we do move forward with that definition, I would like to see deed restrictions and covenant restriction language that speaks directly to not enclosing that space. Because once it becomes enclosed, it counts, and we're not going to do that after the fact. And I want adequate legal controls in place to make sure that that cannot happen. As most people, when they buy these places, they decide to make it their own, make some improvements. And let me tell you, if I were buying that, first thing I would do is screen in that and change it.
I believe we can adequately, I'm sorry, Stephen Tatum, Matthews and Jones here for the applicant. We can adequately handle that within the declaration for the townhomes themselves. While I'm up here, and not to change the subject, but the sidewalk buyout issue, I've just now come on board, and y'all know, but I have a potential issue with putting sidewalk on someone else's property that's not public right-of-way because of liability issues for my client. Someone is walking on that sidewalk, falls, breaks an ankle, something. They claim the sidewalk was not constructed properly. Who are they going to go after? You know, I mean, yeah, you've got your property owner, but then you've also got a developer that put this in.
Well, do you want to go to the BCC and ask for a sidewalk buyout?
Well, what do you mean ask for a sidewalk buyout?
I'm not going to approve it. And I have the authority not to.
Okay. Well, for the time being, let's continue with the sidewalk there. I'll talk to the client about it and see if, you know, the feelings, I feel like there needs to be some sort of indemnity or something just from a liability standpoint.
I do have some other questions about that entry. One of the things that sort of has been misleading for me is the way that the entry is depicted graphically. It makes it appear that we're doing something new on the entry. And once I dug into the details of the project, we're not making any improvements on the entry road to Blue Pine Boulevard, unless I'm mistaken.
That's correct.
Was there something required?
Well, there might be. When I looked at this, I assumed that we were bringing that up to standards because it's the entrance to a development and the access to a public roadway.
But it's an existing plat with an existing roadway on the plat that was already approved by the county. And
No, sir, it was not improved by the county. That was improved by the neighbors. They paid for that.
No, approved. It was approved by the county.
Yes.
The plat was approved by the county. I don't feel like there's any, especially considering the small amount of traffic this is going to generate, considering that that was supposed to have been a commercial use to begin with. And there could have been a much more intense use put there from a 6-unit townhome development.
And a much more intense use would support improving that entry.
Well, I'm potentially, yes, but I'm saying the county approved the design, the width, knowing that those were going to be commercial parcels. It's called out on the plat.
It's a 60-foot right-of-way right through there, up to that intersection, right? 30 on
I
each
assume
side.
so.
Meets the county standards.
Okay.
But it was approved a long time ago without the requirement that it be improved. That's just a concern. If the neighbors had not put asphalt on this, we would expect you to do that.
Yes, absolutely, I agree. And we would have wanted to do that.
And I expect you would. But we're not going to approve it, and I've gotten a number of emails and letters requesting that this development provide access only on 30A and not Blue Pine Boulevard. And we cannot do
No,
that.
you can't do that.
That is completely inappropriate based on the way this plat was approved and all the rules related to driveway access on County Road 30A. That would be inappropriate. So we're not going to consider that because the code points us in a different direction. But because that traffic is going to enter and exit on Blue Pine Boulevard, it sure strikes me that we should be making some kind of improvement there.
Even with a traffic concurrence or a traffic analysis that says we're talking 7 trips PM peak?
From a marketing standpoint, I'm familiar with this neighborhood. It's a very nice neighborhood, has tremendously large lots, which are unique to this area of South Walton. But it was developed a long time ago. If I were doing this, I'd do something to improve at least the signage in the middle of that Blue Pine Boulevard, because it's going to directly impact marketability of these townhomes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, didn't we address the signage?
That's street signs.
Oh, the
not
street signs, okay.
Not the,
And we talked about street signs.
So you're wanting us
and
to
we
change the
appreciate that.
association sign, or there's not an association, but the
No,
neighborhood sign?
Here's what I like to see. These are likely to be short-term rentals,
Potentially now, yes. Now we're down from 9 to 6.
and they probably always would have been, given the market in South Walton. I think we need to look at the entry. I think we've made some significant progress, and I think going from 9 to 6 is appropriate, and would have always been appropriate based on the limitations on this small site. It's a small site. You don't have a lot to work with. I get that part. But I would like to see, the sidewalk buyout, we're just not going to do that.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, what are you talking about improvements to the entry? I know of nothing in the code that we're looking at here that we could even address that entry.
No, I'm not saying that I have code requirements I can apply to this directly.
If the neighborhood wants an updated sign, if that's all we're talking about is the signage, then, they let their association lapse. If they had an association, that would have been the association's responsibility anyway. But they don't have an association now, so that's not our fault.
Well, actually, there is one out there, but it's voluntary,
Okay, well then
not mandatory.
all right. But if we're only talking about a sign, I'm sure that's something that my client and the voluntary association could work out a contribution towards a small sign or a small sign improvement. Not paying for the whole thing because the association is the one that's going to reap the benefit, but.
Well, I'm just concerned about the entryway, Blue Pine Boulevard. When we're getting pushed back on putting sidewalks there as an alternative to buying them out.
Well, the only pushback's from a liability standpoint. It's not that we don't want to do it. It's just, to me, that reeks of there being a potential issue later down the road. But as far as an improvement to the entryway, I'm not sure what, if there were a code provision that required something, I could agree with you, but I'm having a hard time understanding what improvement to the entryway you would, be basing this meeting on.
And I'm not sure what that would be. And I might suggest you meet with the neighbors I mean, we got a whole bunch of ideas about improvements that I would like to think we have shared with you already, based on public comment.
I have seen some of those. I saw something about a gate, which,
Well, and I saw the gate comment about that, and this development is not going to be able to have a gate based on the width of this particular entry. At least not up near, because we just
you would have to
don't
push it
enough
back all the
room.
way past our entrance,
Don't have
essentially.
enough room to meet the requirements for a gate in this particular location. Which, I mean, lots of folks would like to be in a gated neighborhood, but this one is not. It was never designed to be one, and I don't think there's adequate room from an engineering standpoint to provide one.
My suggestion would be to allow my client to talk with the association on what they would like to see, but that should not hold up today's approval, because it's not a county requirement in any way, but as a sign of good faith, we'll see if there's something that we can work out.
Well, I'd like to see that happen. I am the one that ultimately has to approve this. The TRC is a recommending body to me.
I agree. However, also, if you meet the code, not a whole lot that can be done.
Right, I don't have a lot of room, but I got some time.
Can't believe you just said that, but
I mean, once this is done, it'll be done for the next 20 years. Possibly more than that. I just want us to do the best job we can.
why don't you let us in rebuttal address, give me a chance to talk with the client about the entryway. If we're only talking a sign, this is probably something that we can take care of easy enough.
And I don't know that we're only talking a sign. I mean, one of the things that I have concern about is just the topography right there on Blue Pine Boulevard. I mean, Blue Wave Drive. I mean, where we go from that corner where the entry is, I mean, that's like a 5-foot drop to the corner of the property line there. Are we going to be how are we going to keep stormwater from running down Blue Wave Drive?
I believe our stormwater plan's already been approved by the engineers, and any change that happens, or anything that happens that's off of our property, that's not because of shed from us, that's something that's already existing. That's a design, that's an issue for the existing community. It has nothing to do with us.
Well, and I understand that, but this is an opportunity.
I'm not sure how we would even, I mean, you're again asking for more improvements, potentially asking for more improvements on property that does not belong to us.
Well, I know, but I'm also speaking to this from a compatibility standpoint, which is subjective.
I cannot imagine how that has an issue with compatibility.
No, all of these things I'm talking about. We're going to have 6 vacation rentals at the front of a single-family development that is largely owner-occupied.
Largely, but not completely, and there's no telling what can happen in the next 20 years.
There's no prohibition against that.
Exactly.
But what that means is there's going to be a lot more traffic through that little segment of the entry.
Not really. I mean, we're talking 7 p.m. peak trips. The de minimis impact. Exactly, and there would be no traffic from us on Blueway Drive. Anything on Blueway Drive is coming from the neighborhood.
Well, I understand that, but the intersection is right there. I mean, we got 3 roads intersecting in one spot. And unfortunately, this is a low-traffic kind of area, or that would be a real problem.
Yeah, with higher densities. Mm-hmm.
But it's the only way to access this lot. It's the safest way to access this lot. I mean, I get that part. And safety is one of our primary concerns, if not the top concern. We'll take a moment here from neighborhood.
Okay, sounds good.
Anybody wishing to offer a comment or a question regarding technical compliance with Land Development Code? Please.
Morning, committee. Tim Tricker, resident of the Pines neighborhood. Good to see you all again. Firstly, Mr. Carpenter, thank you for your comments regarding the road. That's something that the community would support. I'd like to remind the applicant that, in fact, they own to the center line of Blue Pine, so it's not someone else's property. It's, in fact, theirs. We would like to request that you at least bring the roads up at the entranceway up to county standards so that we can, something we've talked about in the neighborhood. We paid for those roads to be paved ourselves, and we have had some discussions about continuing to improve as we move down through the neighborhood, bringing the road systems up to the county standards of the roads, because the current road bed we have there is not to the county standards. So we'd like to second that comment that you made, and thank you for addressing that. Briefly, wanted to hit again, just for the record, we'll touch again on the neighborhood continues to stand by our argument regarding the designation of the rear lot line as the eastern property boundary based on the strictest definition of Land Development Code.
And we have
Understood.
an exhibit that speaks directly to that and confirms that the rear property line as shown in the application is consistent.
Stating again for the record,
Yes, sir.
so we can establish that our community continues to
Yes,
push for that point.
We've had an engineer review that and provide a statement.
Understood. Per Land Development Code, right-of-way protection, we again want to state for the record, we continue to push for the application of the right-of-way protection on that Seagull Blue Wave. I forget the name of that street. We keep renaming it Blue Wave. Blue Wave, thank you. Don't want to belittle those points. We've certainly talked about them quite a number of times. Unless you want to, they're great fun to discuss. Moving on. The height issue. Can we talk about the number of stories, please? My understanding is that the building department did in fact review the drawings and came to the conclusion that as it's currently shown, I believe was the wording in the document that I saw, that the building is a 4-story building. And I think the comments were made that if they had removed some of the walls on the ground floor, that it would, in their estimation, be a 3-story building. If that's my correct assumption, the drawings still show a number of partitions on that ground floor. So I don't know that, as far as the building department is concerned, this is still a 4-story building. And as we've all discussed before, with relevancy to the Land Development Code, this impacts the side setbacks, moving it from a 10-foot side setback to a 15. And we would like to raise this issue again. I'd like to touch on a few other issues in that, again, not to reiterate, but the Land Development Code has no definition. Walton County has no definition of story in the Land Development Code, which is causing a lot of confusion for this. But it's a little bit of a looks like a duck, quacks like a duck sort of situation. If it's 4 stories, if you're the house adjacent to this property, which we do have a house adjacent to the property in our neighborhood, it's a 50-story building, 50-foot, 50-story. Let me get my definitions correct. 50-foot tall building that's being placed on top of almost 6 feet of fill. So you have, a 55-foot tall building that's going next to an existing residence. I don't think it's out of question to ask the person to at least push the building back far enough to give us some buffering in there. I want to also point out that even though Walton County does not have a definition of what constitutes a story, our neighboring counties here in the Panhandle, if you look at Okaloosa, Santa Rosa County, Escambia, they all have definitions, and by their definitions, which to me would be reasonable, they're all pretty similar. This is a 4-story building, and I think it should be subject to the more restrictive setback requirements of a 4-story building in order to meet compatibility. Final note on that, if we're relying on the building department to make the determination, the building department is looking at number of floors as they need to, as for compliance with Florida Building Code. And of course, they're doing so because they're concerned about health, safety, and welfare, occupancy loads, egress issues, fire separation. They're not looking in terms of compatibility to, visual compatibility to surrounding buildings in the neighborhood, which is what we're doing here. So I don't know that their determination is in terms of of whether or not they remove some of the partitions on the ground floor should be the end-all determination there.
But one of my concerns is, as you state, we don't have a definition of story in our code. But the land development code does incorporate the building code, and it does.
Right.
So that is law in Walton County.
Yeah, and as we pointed out, sir.
In the absence of
Yeah.
anything else in conflict with
Right.
that. And that is the dilemma here.
Right, as we discussed in
Right.
the very first TRC meeting.
But we also have to look at, what we can legally require. Because it's not in the county's interest to require things that we can't support in the code. Because we likely incur additional legal expense to defend our position. And if it's not well-grounded in the code, then we run the risk of not being successful in court. So managing where we are legally is absolutely important to us.
I would suggest that you might be in pretty good legal standing if you are willing to adopt the interpretation surrounding counties are using for their definition of the story within their land development codes.
Except those laws apply in those counties. They have no legal effect in Walton County.
But as we have no definition here, it seems like that's a reasonable one to use. And based on any kind of, calling a spade, this is a 4-story building. And if you're in a neighboring community, as we are, those additional setbacks get us additional landscaping buffers, additional visual buffers that are helping to preserve the quality of our neighborhood, the land values in our community. And so we feel like this is an important issue. With that, I'll wrap it up. Thank you.
Do we have anyone else that wishes to make a comment? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. Barbara Morano. I'm on the board of South Walton Community Council, so I'm representing them today. I want to welcome the attorney to this party. When I see an attorney, I know we struck a nerve. And this project, Mac, as you know, has been going on for quite a while. And it was always appropriate to have 6 townhouses. If we would have started there, I think the conversation would have we would have gotten here much quicker. We had a neighborhood meeting, and Dean Burgess was insistent this was going to be 9 townhomes. Leaving that where it is, I appreciate what you're saying about a deed restriction. Absolutely, that first floor is going to be converted. The sidewalk buyout, absolutely, we're in support of what you're saying. We're in agreement that this is a 4-story, and we're also appreciative of what you're talking about, that as far as compatibility. It is a single-family residence neighborhood. It is really a non-rental neighborhood, and the property next to it is a 1-story. So these townhouses, in my opinion, are really not compatible, and they are going to be huge on fronting on that. And that was why the issue of the 4-story came up with the additional screening.
I understand that. One comment, the house right next to, which would be to the east, is a vacation rental, and it's a pretty egregious one.
And that's okay, but it's a 1-story, so.
I agree, it's a 1-story.
Right, okay. So those are my points, and again, I really appreciate your pushing the deed restriction, if this needs to stay as a 3-story. But, and I also appreciate that you've read the neighbors' letters, because you're exactly on point for what they want. So thank you very much.
Anyone else wishing to make a comment or ask a question about technical compliance? Do the applicant have any additional comments?
Stephen Tatum again, on behalf of the applicant. I mean, I think it sounds from based on those public comments that we're all kind of in agreement on everything except for the number of stories, which has already been determined and has been done for at least a decade. This has been the way that stories have been determined. You know, we're willing to put into the covenants, conditions, and restrictions that the bottom floor will not be closed in. It is open at this point, regardless of, you know, what you're led to believe. There's a knee wall in the back, but that is not, it's a 3-foot knee wall. It's not enclosed. My client has told me that he is willing to do his pro rata share of any improvements to the roadway. However, we don't know what those improvements are. You know, I mean, Public Works is here. There's no comments that there's anything needed to be done to the road in our comments. Everything's fine from them, from their standpoint. So I'm not sure, you know, what we're even discussing.
Well, in the broadest sense, bringing that portion of the Blue Pine Boulevard up to county standards, whatever that is.
When Public Works is here, can you tell us what that standard is that we're not meeting?
I'm not familiar with what the standard is, but if you want to reach out to Public Works, we do have policy of bringing a road up to county standards. There are several steps that you have to follow. I'll be glad to get that to you if you'd like.
I mean, we would be happy to talk with the voluntary association to come up with how they would like to share the cost of this. You know, we are one lot within a several lot platted subdivision. So, you know, we'd be happy to pay our 1/10 or whatever it works out to towards the improvement. But to put the entire improvement upon us, it's untenable and it has really, you know, there's no basis for it. But as far as if an improvement is needed and the association wants it, we would be happy to chip in a fair share to make it work. But I think that's something that needs to be done between the developer and the association, and the county just stay out of it besides approving the improvements to be made. It's not.
Man, the county is not out of this. There's no way the county can stay out of this. We're having to approve a development order, and I'm the one that has to sign it.
But
so I'm directly involved. So don't suggest that the county stay out of this.
From the standpoint of approving this development, yes, because that's already an approved roadway, which was paved by the association, which was platted. It meets the standards as far as what we have to meet right now to be able to do this development. So I don't know why this meeting needs to be contingent upon that. I mean, we're stating on the record right now, we will meet with this voluntary association and see what improvement needs to be made, because we literally right now have no idea what we're even talking about. And we will put in our fair share towards making that happen.
Well, I appreciate your willingness to cooperate on that and discuss it. And I don't know what those improvements are exactly. But I appreciate that willingness.
Aside from that, I don't know that there's anything else that we need to discuss. I think everything else was handled, and, you know, the public comments were either addressed or we've decided that they were, you know, not valid.
Thanks, sir.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to suggest a motion. I mean, quite frankly, the story question, I'm pretty sure I know what the legal answer is. But I'm going to suggest that this is probably going to be the genesis of changing that in the Land Development Code, to where we look at stories one way in the building code for purposes of life safety, and we look at stories in the Land Development Code a different way for the purpose of compatibility. And I recognize that I have a limited opportunity here. But we have to go with the rules that we have in place. I'm not comfortable with this project yet. I recognize that it appears that we have met most of the, clearly met most of the land development code regulations with regard to technical compliance. But I'm just not comfortable with this project yet. What it would suggest is that we entertain a motion to recommend to the director approval of this project, subject to the applicant meeting with the neighborhood and discussing potential improvements to Blue Pine Boulevard would bring that up to county standards.
Ask for some clarification on that.
Yes, sir.
Suppose we meet with the association and we determine what it's going to cost to do it. And then, you know, we're talking about paying our fair share. And the rest of the lot owners don't want to divvy in. Are we going to be somehow penalized because we made the effort, but because the association did not have the funding to be able to complete the improvements?
I don't know.
Well,
I can't answer that question. I mean, I don't.
Mac, I'm really having a hard time struggling with this.
I wouldn't suggest that you would be, but I mean, that's a hypothetical question and that I'm just not going to answer.
The fact that you're even putting it as a condition to the development order or to the recommending of approval of the development order, when it's something that is a private road, a voluntary association, and a private developer-owned lot in an approved plat, and now this is a condition of getting approval, is, I don't know. I've never heard of anything like this before.
And I think I stated earlier that when I looked at this, I mean, my impression was you were already going to do that. And for a couple of months, that's what I've been thinking. And then I dug deeper into that just to make sure, and it turns out that is not the case.
What was it you were thinking we were going to do? Maybe that'll help us
Overlay
understand.
that all the way up to the entry.
You're talking about just refinishing the pavement?
Yeah.
That's all you're talking about doing?
At a minimum, I mean, that's what graphically it looked like on the plan.
I mean, if that's...
No indication on the plan that that was actually going to happen.
Okay,
That
well,
was
make
just
that...
impression, and I think that was probably the impression of the public when they looked at the plan. Well, it looks like we're going to get some kind of improvement there on Blue Pine Boulevard.
Okay, well, if that's what it is you're suggesting, instead of saying bringing it up to county code, can we make the motion be that meet with the association to determine how we're going to resurface Blue Pine Boulevard? Because leaving it as bring it up to county code leaves it very open.
How about this? How about this? A discussion of what improvements can be made to Blue Pine Boulevard.
Okay.
And then once y'all do that, come back and talk to me.
Okay.
But I think it's really important. And I'm the one that's going to be on the hook here. And if we deny this project and we go to court, and I'm sure we will, because that's what happens in Walton County, I'm going to be the one that has to testify. So I'm in the frying pan on this project. And I want to do the best I can for the county and the public.
Okay. I mean, I'm still looking for some hook where this is
I
required.
want this applicant to be able to develop on this property. I mean, there's no question about whether or not there's going to be a development on this property. I mean, we've already established that something's going to happen here. And it's going to be consistent with whatever the Land Development Code allows.
Which I think we've already determined today that we meet the land development code based on comments from every department. And this is just now coming up today.
Well,
Public Works would have called it if Public Works had a problem with it.
this party a little bit late. There's been a lot of discussion about this development, a lot of gnashing of teeth. We came in here looking at a mixed-use project that was going to be 9 units plus some, suggestion of a mixture of uses, which just wouldn't hold water. Now we're getting down to a reasonable sized project, and we're almost there. But I just want it to be the best project it can be. It's on 30A. Developer is going to make boatloads of money on this because that's what's happening in our community right now, regardless of what size it ultimately turns out to be. And this is adjacent to 30A. And it's important. It's important to me.
And I agree, and
And just
Not
like
what people
it's
may think, I am
important
for-
to the applicant. I get that. And I expect we're going to get there. But that's what I'd like to see.
well, given that that's apparently our only option for today, we will agree to meet with the association to look at what could possibly be done, as long as we're getting through TRC today, and then we will come back to you. But I do not think it's appropriate for us to our DO to be held up just because the association can't pony up the funds to handle the rest of the
Well,
resurfacing.
and we don't know that.
I mean,
and-
yeah, Blue
and I
Pine
don't know
Drive
that
is
that-
partially on our property, but it's also partially on someone else's property.
True.
Again, we're talking about improvements being required of us to someone else's property. And
Which is within the easement of the subdivision that you have rights to use.
that is absolutely true.
So I get all of that. Plus you have a cooperative property owner that owns the other half of the easement right there.
Well, of course, you can get something for free.
And there's going to be some kind of development on the other side of Blue Pine Boulevard that's going to be village mixed use also. And that development will access Blue Pine Boulevard. I mean, yes, Blue Pine Boulevard, similarly to this one, it won't be accessed off 30A. So there might be some cooperation that could be achieved for the benefit of everybody, that will not unduly impact this particular neighborhood. I'm happy to change the language related to Blue Pine Boulevard, and let's just say potential improvements to Blue Pine Boulevard.
For motion. I would prefer it to say resurfacing, but because potential improvements to Blue Pine Boulevard could mean any number of things.
Yeah, and I think that palette needs to be open.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean that we will gild the lily.
Well, that's what I'm concerned about, is a
but I
huge
want that
ask that then
discussion to
stops it.
occur,
The discussion will occur.
in good faith.
Oh, absolutely. But it needs to be on both sides of good faith.
And I agree, and I think you will get good faith from a neighborhood. There are issues they've raised that we've addressed, a number of fears and concerns that we've allayed. So this project has come a long way. And it's almost at the end here.
Okay, well,
So just to restate that motion, a recommendation to the director for approval, subject to the applicant meeting with the neighborhood to discuss proposed improvements or potential improvements to Blue Pine Boulevard. That's my suggested motion. Can we have a motion of the dice?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed likewise? Hearing none, motion is approved. We look forward to your meeting. We'll move to item number 10. And on item number 10, we have a request to continue. Let's see. Yes, we have a request to continue this item to the January 19th, 2022 Technical Review Committee meeting. Can we have a motion out of the dais? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to the January 19th, 2022 TRC meeting at 8:30 a.m. in this location. Next item on our agenda this morning is number 11, Forest View Village PUD Amendment number 4. This is major development reviewed by Tim Brown. Tim, if you can introduce it for us.
Yes, good morning. This is a major development order application submitted by Innerlight Engineering requesting approval to increase the square footage for supermarket use from 45,600 to 51,000, reduce the square footage for retail use from 22,250 to 6,945, increase the square footage for mini warehouse use from 45,000 to 60,000, increase the square footage for office use from 18,000 to 28,000, remove a 98-unit hotel use and add an 8-pump gas station and convenience store use. These changes will result in an overall reduction of commercial square footage of 20,000 square feet from 180,000 to 160,000 square feet. PUD amendment on 37.24 acres with a future land use of commercial and a zoning of general commercial. And there's only a couple minor comments. However, we do have a non-approved sign at the entrance there at MC Davis and US 98, which has not been approved, not been permitted. With that, I'd like to enter staff report into the record, and unless you have questions, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you, Tim. We'll hear from the applicant.
Thank you, Tim, and good morning. For the record, I'm David Smith with Innerlight Engineering, and as Tim presented, this is a reallocation exercise with the approved uses internally, so there's no additional concurrency that's being generated by this request. This is simply a reallocation exercise that's internal within the approved PUD. And I know this is the fourth amendment, and this is also the final amendment. So, with that being said, regarding the sign, because we just were made aware of this as well, I believe this has been discussed for some time now, and I believe code enforcement reached out to my client, Charles Rigdon, and there's been some ongoing conversation that's been for a period of time where we provided some additional information. So I'm just trying to understand where this stands as well.
Here's my suggestion on that. This is also the sign that has a county facility name on it.
Yes, it does.
My suggestion is we resolve this prior to planning commission.
Okay.
And not, given that this is open for a year, without that holding us up today.
And we would be supportive of that as well. And I understand there's a representative for Tom Thumb here as well. So we are certainly open to resolving that issue, whatever that entails. And I know this has been going on for some time.
You'd work with Tim on that.
Yes, thank you.
Do we have any member of the public today that has a technical question about compliance with Land Development Code or this PUD?
Mr. Carpenter, Robert Volpe with Holtzman Vogel on behalf of Junior Food Stores of West Florida. My client is an owner within this PUD, and typically for a reallocation like this, because it's not changing the allocation for our property, it's not necessary for sign-off or agent approval, but we were not aware of this amendment until yesterday. And I wanted to correct a few things for the record and then put our position also in front of the TRC. As far as the code enforcement issue, that sign in the staff report, it references parcel 053S18-16000-001-0042. That is Junior Food Stores of West Florida. That is our parcel. The sign is in the right-of-way, and it's actually right in the middle of the sidewalk where the sidewalk dead ends. My client went through the master sign plan
Easement
process.
that for this particular sign that was granted by the original developer?
I am not aware of a sign easement at that location. There's no permit for this sign, and it's...
In that, that's what our issue is.
Right, so just as far as, I wanted to clarify that that is not on our parcel. It mentions...
Understand that that is not something that your client has done.
Okay, and it's also our position that, I don't know what the resolution is, but it's our position that that sign should be completely removed because it's only 20 or 30 feet from where our approved sign would be. It would essentially block the view of our sign that went through this entire permitting process, so.
Yes, we resolve this prior to Planning Commission.
Okay, and if that issue can be resolved prior to the Planning Commission, I don't believe that we have any other issues other than we did not give our consent to this PUD application or amendment, but I believe that we would not have any other concerns. Thank you.
Anyone else have a question about technical compliance? Seeing none, we'll entertain a recommended motion.
I have a question for Tim. I have a note here by Bill, just one on the record. He was never assigned to review this project, so he wasn't sure if the county needed him to review it or not.
No, since it's only an reallocation of uses, planning was the only reviewer. It didn't go out to anyone else.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no additional external impacts for these changes.
There's only a couple minor outstanding comments, so my recommended motion would be approve the project pending resolution of those outstanding comments and move it forward to the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Tim. We have a recommended motion. Do we have a motion at the dais?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is approved to move forward to Planning Commission subject to resolution of the code compliance sign issue. This moves us to item number 12, the Gulfview Estates. This is a minor development reviewed by Tim also. Tim, if you could introduce this one for us.
Yes, thank you. This is a minor development or application submitted by Westera Development requesting approval to develop 3 single-family lots and associated infrastructure on 0.5 acres with the future land use of residential and a zoning of neighborhood infill. There's outstanding comments from planning, Public Works, county surveyor, environmental. Did not have any comments as of the date of the report from fire or from Dewberry. However, comments did come in yesterday from Dewberry. Didn't receive any comments from the health department. With that, I'll ask the staff report be entered into the record, and I'll turn it over. If you don't have questions, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you, Tim. Looks like we have a number of public comments related to this particular application.
Yesterday from Douglas Wood.
Tim, have all of these public comments been shared with the applicant?
I did not forward them, no. I just put them in the project folder and printed them out for today's meeting.
Do we have anybody here representing the applicant this morning?
Hilburn, West Terra Development.
Okay. Spell your last name for the record, please.
Hilburn. And I just wanted to know if there's any, I know we have the comments that Tim had mentioned that are outstanding that we will be working on to resolve. And I wanted to know if there's any other comments, questions we can discuss.
Scenic corridor buffer question, something that's very important to me. What are your plans for restoration of that?
For restoration, I'm sorry?
Corridor buffer?
We're actually going to be working with the landscape architect for that because we had a analysis done by Biome to see if there were any sensitive vegetation there, which they didn't find any. So we need to be able to utilize existing vegetation that's there and then restore based on a landscape architect's design.
Yeah, we're looking for something pretty robust there, so.
I'm sorry?
Code change, and now you have to make a restoration if it's gone. So we're looking for something pretty robust there. This is a national scenic byway. That's a county scenic highway. And that part is very, very important.
Okay.
I do have a couple questions.
Sure.
These are supposed to be vacation rentals.
If you don't mind, I'll let my client answer that.
No, I'll probably be keeping one ourselves, and then we're going to be selling 2 other ones, but we're not planning on, as far as ours, as being a vacation rental. The other 2, it's just going to be whoever purchases those, what they intend to use those for.
Well, part of my concern here is 2 parking spaces are shown in the garage. And if these are going to be vacation rentals, we're not going to count those 2 spaces towards meeting your parking requirement, because our experience is when people put these on a vacation rental program, the garage fills up with all the concierge toys, the golf cart, the kayaks, the paddle boards, and all of those things that make a concierge vacation a nice thing to have. That, just looking at the plan, that's my first concern. Given where this is, these are going to be vacation rentals, short-term rentals. And they will probably be marketed as short-term rentals based on an income approach to value. because that's what's happening in our county right now. We do have a number of comments from the various agencies that have reviewed the development. And we have a number of comments from the public in the neighborhood concerning stormwater and those kinds of things, which are normal kinds of things to expect, but we haven't shared those with you yet, and we need to do that so you have the benefit of seeing what those comments are and what concerns the neighborhood might have about the proposed development on your particular site. So that we need to do for your benefit, and Tim will make that happen pretty quickly. All of those comments will be posted to our Citizen Serve portal, so you should be able to see those pretty quickly. How much time do you think you'll need to respond to comments?
Plan on working on those revisions within the next few weeks to get back to you.
30-day continuance?
I'm sorry?
30 days?
Absolutely.
Okay. Did you have any other questions about what you received so far? Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll take the opportunity to invite any comment about technical compliance from any member of our public this morning. Is there anyone here that wishes to make a comment or ask a question about technical compliance with the Land Development Code? Good morning, sir. If you could state your name and spell your last name for the record, please.
Good morning. Douglas Brent Wood. Last name is Wood, W-O-O-D. I own the house directly across the street from this proposed development at 49 Mary Street, and recognize that this property, the zoning that we're dealing with is infill request, which recognizes that it is a new project going into an existing established neighborhood. But also, I have some concern about the fact that the impacts are going to be on the Mary Street small community, which in fact is residential preservation, even more restrictive. But even looking at the infill, compatibility with the existing neighborhood, it seems to be of utmost importance, and we obviously agree with that. And the factors that are considered are setback, height, lot size, parking, and in our opinion, in my opinion, and many of my neighbors in this 50-year-old residential neighborhood, the proposed project is not consistent with the existing neighborhood. In fact, these potentially up to 45-foot structures face, in my case, a two-story home, and in my neighbor's case, a one-story home. And many of the homes in our neighborhood are either one or two-story. Parking is a serious consideration. I think that we're all aware of the impact of short-term rentals and the proliferation of these larger monster or party houses, whatever you want to call them. And in this case, we really have no information about the size of the building projects that are proposed, other than the fact up to a 40-foot height limit. Also, south of 30A, I know there are additional requirements as far as setback, and I think that's something that needs to be considered in this case because of the impact of these very large structures on an established neighborhood. Parking, I think, has been mentioned, I think, even by you, sir, and obviously with short-term rentals, the parking garages are not going to be utilized for parking. And in these larger rental houses, we've seen over the summer 8 to 10 vehicles with each short-term rental, which would completely overrun a very narrow blacktop street in a quiet residential neighborhood with many full-time residents. For that reason, I suggest that the project as planned is not consistent with either the infill code or, even more importantly, for the rest of our neighborhood, which it impacts the residential preservation code. Thank you.
Good morning.
My name is Worth Green. I am one of those full-time residents that I've owned in that area since the year 2000. And since moving down here full-time in 2011, I have continued to watch the flooding issues in our neighborhood get worse. And I know the county is very aware of those issues. One of the things that I don't understand looking at these plans, what's going to happen to all the rainwater that's going to fall on those driveways? I'm assuming it's going to wash right down Mary Street and just make our flooding situations worse. There is no outlet to the little lake that's at the bottom end, south end of Mary Street. And I know the county's looking at that, but I just want to remind you that is a significant neighborhood concern which has not gone away. And I haven't seen anything in the plans that really address that, because I have a question: how does all rainwater get into that one little retention area? Second issue, which the county's already brought up, is the entrance congestion, and I appreciate your concerns there. And if these go all rental and there's 10, 12 cars parked up there, that's a real danger, not only on 38, but on that bicycle path. Any questions for me?
This is in what we refer to as an ICPAL area, which is the initial county problem area list developed in 2014 when we had the tremendous excess of groundwater, which we've recently experienced again this year. The code requires that that stormwater standard, which would normally be a design for a 25-year storm, to be designed for a 100-year storm, which is our most intense standard for stormwater presently in the county. They're required to retain all their water on site in the amount that a 100-year storm would generate.
Okay, so what you're telling me there is there's going to be some way of capturing all that water that runs off those driveways.
Code required.
Okay. Is that going to be reflected on their plans? All right.
And I don't think it is yet.
Okay, well, I didn't see it. That's why I was asking. All right, so we'll have a continuance, and this will be brought up again X number of weeks down the road?
I think our suggestion is we continue for a month, which would take this to, let's see, what, get the calendar to come up.
Second or 16th?
The second.
February 2nd or the 16th?
It'll be at least February 2nd, possibly
Okay.
16th.
All right, thank you very much.
And by the way, all of this stuff, as you may very well know, will be available through our Citizen Serve portal, so the public can see everything that we see. Good morning.
Report. We own Unit 407 at San Remo, which is where this lot is going to be on the property there. Where this lot is situated is on the northeast corner of the San Remo property. It's only a half-acre lot. On the northwest corner is another lot with one single house and a pool. Our concerns at San Remo, and I'm president of the HOA, is that an easement was granted to these two lots by the original developer. The easement was recorded in 2002. And the easement grants these two individual lots rights to our property amenities, our pool and our beach walkover that we maintain. At this property, San Remo has 32 units. Sea Haunts, just adjacent to us on the beach, has 32 units. They also have access to our pool and our beach walkover. That easement was made by the original developer with Sea Haunts. Our pool has a capacity of 46. We already have 64 units. The big house on the northwest corner has access to our property. the way the easement was granted is that it envisions one house per lot. It requires one payment for an HOA dues from those 2 lots. It requires one liability policy from those 2 lots. In all honesty, I wouldn't be here if the plan came out and said one house, one lot. When our owner saw 3 houses per lot, it raised concerns because all those houses are going to want to come and use our amenities. Our lawyer, Jay Roberts, sent a letter to the developer last August 16th advising them that we envision the easement as one house can use our amenities and we will enforce it. Meaning, how's that affect the county? Because if there's 2 big houses that park on Mary Street, not on our property, and we enforce them not coming to our beach access, where are they going to go? They're going to go to any beach access they can find, which is they try to get through Mary Street, which is private, or they go to South Spooky Lane or to the access at Goat Feathers. So you have increased traffic and families and everything going up and down 30A. The parking issue has been addressed. That's a huge problem. But our issue is that we envision one house, one lot, and we're going to run into huge, huge problems with that. But if the plan was one house, one lot, well, we from San Remo wouldn't have an issue.
Ask a question.
Yes, sir.
Is the Walton County a party to that easement?
Yes. Oh, no, it's an easement between the developer and the landowners.
A private access easement to your amenity.
Yes, sir.
I would suggest that that is a private legal issue that
Yes,
you
sir.
need to resolve with the property owner.
Right.
The county is not a party to that easement, and I understand your concern, and I appreciate all of what you just shared with me. I understand the issue, but we're not in a position to participate with that particular easement or use that easement in any way in our review of this particular.
But we understand that. We understand it's an issue between us and this developer and those landowners, but it does impact the county, as I said, but by us pushing them out to use the county roads and the county beach access.
And I think that gets taken into account in our traffic analysis.
Okay.
That additional traffic on 30A.
Okay, well, that's our position, unless you have any further questions.
Well, I understand where you are.
Okay.
But I think that's a private legal issue that.
Yes, sir.
Would need to be resolved pretty quickly.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning again, Barbara Morano, and I am representing South Walton Community Council, and you're probably saying, why is that again? One of our members asked us to be at the neighborhood meeting when we first met. Is it Mr. Nawa? Am I pronouncing it?
Nava.
Nava? Okay. We met Mr. Nava and we met the engineer at that time. And we discussed really the same issues that are coming here. First of all, I appreciate the continuance to February 2nd. Without a doubt, when I was looking over the staff report, there were just numerous issues that need to be resolved.
The normal thing that we do. We give the applicant an opportunity to respond to comments, and we accommodate the length of time they think they need to adequately respond to those. That's a pretty normal routine thing we do. If
Right.
it's not ready, it's got to wait.
Correct. And there was quite a number here. And with all due respect to Wisteria, this is the first time I'm meeting the engineering company. Hopefully they know our code and they understand that 30A is a national scenic byway. And there were a number of issues that did concern me that they were not addressed. I mean, I understand about public comments, but as far as comments from planning, the project just was not
ready.
Not ready, correct. And that's a disappointment, a concern, and a red light. We also do not have a physical picture of what these buildings are going to look like. It's just a flat drawing. So yes, we agree on the parking. Absolutely. A deed restriction was talked about at the neighborhood meeting. And the applicant seemed willing to do that or think about. We talked about that, okay? And I know you were talking about a deed restriction on the Draper townhouses. And this is definitely, for the record, we want to say that that really is a must. That's a non-negotiable. And the reason it's a non-negotiable is just what Mr. Wood said. It's going to be a concierge closed garage, and you're going to have more people in there. It's a 3-story. I'm assuming that's a 4-bedroom home. I'm not sure. I'm not seeing that. Are you, Mr. Carpenter, seeing how many bedrooms?
Looks like at least 2 of them will be at least that, based on what the parking they proposed.
At least 4 bedrooms. Is that what you're? Yeah.
All 3 of them have 4 bedrooms each.
So the county requirement is 3 parking spaces, correct, for the 4 bedrooms? It's interesting about the history. I understand the county was not part of that understanding with San Remo, but looking at that neighborhood, the history is one family in that particular lot. So, you know, that's, I know you're shaking your head, but that's just for the comment, is that's where the neighbors are coming from, and we understand that. So, again, I appreciate February 2nd. I think it really has to be fleshed out, not just addressing the neighborhood comments, but all of the comments that the staff put out. And I appreciate what the staff did. They had to work hard to understand this project because they didn't have that much to begin with. So, thank you. All right.
Anyone else have a technical question about compliance with land development code? Seeing none, we'll entertain and recommend a motion, Tim.
Sounds like the consensus is to continue it to the February 2nd TRC meeting.
Will that give you adequate time to respond? Because we'll need about a week to review your comments also. Then we'll entertain a motion to continue this item to the February 2nd TRC meeting. We have a motion of the dais. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to continue to February 2nd, 2022 at 8:30 location. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? Like Groundhog Day. Thank you, gentlemen. That moves us to item number 13, the Saltwater Subdivision Plat. It's been reviewed by Stephen Schoen. Stephen, if you'll introduce it for us.
Yes, good morning. Saltwater Subdivision Plat is a request to approve by final plat. Project number PLA 21-000044 is a minor plat application submitted by Innerlight Engineering Corporation on behalf of GBOF1 LLC, requesting to plat a 5-lot subdivision on 5.77 plus or minus acres with the future land use of mixed use and the zoning of traditional neighborhood development. The project is located in District 5 and identified by the parcel number in your staff report. If I could ask that it be entered into the record, please.
Go ahead.
Thank you. There are some outstanding comments. Generally speaking, they are clarification in nature and some minor corrections. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. If not, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you, Stephen. We'll hear from the applicant unless there are questions from TRC for staff.
Morning again. For the record, I'm David Smith with Innerlight Engineering, and we agree the comments are pretty minor, and we can get these addressed, and would respectfully request to move forward, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions for our applicant? Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
We'll take a moment to invite any technical compliance questions or comments from any member of the audience. Anyone here wishing to ask a technical compliant question? Seeing none, we'll entertain recommended motion.
Staff would recommend conditional approval based on satisfaction of all outstanding comments prior to moving to the Board of County Commissioners.
Thanks, sir. We have recommended motion. Do we have a motion at the dais?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward to the BCC. And we will move to item number 14, Bluewater Landing Plat. Also reviewed by Stephen Schoen. Stephen, if you can introduce that one for us.
Yes. Bluewater Landing Plat is a request to approve by final plat. Project number PLA 21-000045 is a major plat application submitted by Innerlight Engineering Corporation on behalf of D.R. Horton Incorporated, requesting to construct 31 single-family homes and associated infrastructure on 35.19 plus or minus acres with the future land use of mixed use in a zoning district of small neighborhood. The property is located in District 5 and can be identified by the by the parcel number in your staff report. If I could have that entered into the record, please. Thank you. The same situation in this instance. There are some minor comments concerning some clarification and just some additional minor additions that need to be addressed. I can answer any questions you may have. If not, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Thanks, sir. Any questions for Stephen? We'll hear from the applicant.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm David Smith with Innerlight Engineering, representing the applicant. And I agree with Stephen. The comments are just additional clarification items. We'll make sure we get those addressed, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Any questions for the applicant, for David? Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
We'll take a moment to invite any technical compliance questions from any member of our audience. Anyone wishing to speak? Barbara.
Good morning. Barbara Morano, South Walton Community Council. As you know, MAC and committee, we've been working for 2 years with D.R. Horton and David Smith. Again, I want to take the opportunity to thank you and Stephen Schoen, Stephen, a shout out, David Smith and D.R. Horton for getting us to where we are right now, down to 31 homes. We're here. I do have a question, and I'm glad I looked at everything in the staff report. I'm going to refer to the actual major development order that's dated July 5th. Just a quick question. When something is dated July 5th, and here we are, January 5th, shouldn't this have come out sooner than January 5th with this DO? Because the land is already being worked on.
I mean, typically the plat application, I mean, there are two ways it can be done in Walton County. You either complete all the infrastructure required by the development order prior to applying to plat the land, or that can be done anytime after a development order is approved with an engineer's cost estimate for 110% of the required infrastructure being placed in the surety with the county. So they don't have to finish everything before they go to platting, but that's really based on their business plan as far as how fast their development is going to move.
Okay, thank you.
Sometimes a developer will finish all the infrastructure before platting. Most of the time, they will get started, but won't be finished, and will put up a surety bond to complete that. Nothing can happen until all the infrastructure is in, as far as building on the lots residentially. So.
Oh, thank you. As I said, I learn every time I come here. And I want to make another comment. We did meet with David Smith with our neighborhood for landscaping. That took place, I think, just before Christmas, I think. And again, project has been a good example of a developer and an engineer working with a community. And we came to some good conclusions. There was a stormwater pipe. I think I spoke with a Dewberry representative on that. We discussed that. We talked about landscaping there, and that was great. I think they're working on a landscape plan right now as we speak, yes, David? Okay, so that's a positive. I just want to go back to the development order so I understand. And Mac, I appreciate when you told me about the entertainment center, that we had to get that additional parcel talked about. I'm going to read it out so that I understand it again. It says, no outdoor entertainment as an ancillary use to a commercial business that uses amplified sound such as stages and amphitheaters. I just want to be sure because Redfish Taco there has their band and their amplified sound. So we're talking about something like a restaurant that's going to be putting in amplified sound. Is that what it says, basically?
I think we were looking at this possibly becoming, or the concern about this becoming an event venue.
Right.
So that language is in there for that particular purpose. And whatever else might be affected by that kind of language.
So is it just wedding or outdoor events, wedding parties, and other gatherings? So it could be interpreted, other gatherings could be a restaurant having gatherings with outdoor music, I would assume. Yeah, okay. That might hopefully not be a fight down the road. So hopefully that language is clear enough.
I think that was our intent in putting that in there.
Right.
So everybody would be well aware of what the limitations are, because we don't know exactly what's going to be developed there in the future. But in my opinion, that's why that language is in there.
Correct, and I thank you and D.R. Horton for putting that in. I understand there's not going to be a pool now in that development, so maybe David can explain what he hopes would be in that common area up in that development there. So,
if they have some ideas.
Right, and I think as far as the staff report goes, I respect Innerlight Engineering. I know they're good on their word. There was a number of issues concerned on the commercial parcel, so hopefully before that's sold, that would be fleshed out a little bit more. Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, David.
I did want to clarify, I'm David Smith again, and we did meet, and I want to take a couple steps back. I mean, we've been meeting a lot on this project, county included, so Ms. Barbara had some kind words for me. I also want to thank you, Ms. Barbara, for being a part of this, and it is a team effort. And we are still meeting with the neighborhood because we told them we would. So we're going to do that till this is finished and make sure that it's done the right way. So we did commit to do that. But Ms. Barber's right. There's no longer, D.R. Horton no longer wants to construct a pool facility. My understanding, it's either going to be either a multi-use field or a dog park. I'm not exactly sure, but there will not be a pool facility there. So again, thank you, county. Thank you, Ms. Barbara, and we appreciate it.
Anyone else have a technical question or technical comment about this proposed plat? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion.
Staff recommends conditional approval based on satisfaction of all outstanding comments prior to moving into BOCC review.
Thank you, sir. We have a recommended motion. Do we have a motion that dies?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed likewise. Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward to the next stage.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Next item is the San Juan replat. It's been reviewed by Bob Baronti. Bob, if you could introduce it for us.
Morning, Mr. Chair. This is request to approve by final plat, project number PLA 21-000029. This is a replat application submitted by Carpenter and Sons Construction LLC on behalf of James and Terry Barnes, requesting to replat 3 lots to 2 lots on 0.347 plus or minus acres in Gulf Shore Manor with the future land use of residential in the zoning district of residential preservation. This property is in District 5, and the parcel number is established in your staff report. Mr. Chair, there's a little history of this replat. As you remember, there was a code violation. The parcel had to be restored. It was restored to the acceptance of the county and the neighborhood. The applicant, because of this controversy, the applicant has taken an extra step to have a community meeting. This plat was paused while that was all taking place. There are very minor comments left to get it to the point that we could recommend approval. The agent is here for the applicant, and I will turn it over to them. Can I enter the staff report into the record, please?
So entered. Thank you, Bob. Any questions for Bob? Thank you, Bob. We'll hear from the applicant's agent.
Hi, I'm Melissa Carpenter with Carpenter and Sons Construction. I'm the general contractor on the project.
Just for the record, very nice to meet you. We share the same last name.
Yes,
but
we do.
I don't know who you are.
Nice to meet you too. I've read the staff report and addressed the comments, and whatever we have left comment-wise, I'm sure we could answer them very quickly to get the replat approved.
Thank you. Thank you for the extra step of meeting with the neighborhood.
Yes, sir. I thought that was very important, so.
As we continue to learn, when the developer makes that extra step, that extra effort, it results in a better project. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions for the applicant? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Recommend a motion.
Like to make a recommendation motion of conditional approval pending successful resubmittal, and then schedule it for the appropriate BCC meeting.
Thank you, Bob. We have a recommended motion. Do we have a motion of the dais? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Before we go to the vote, I'll take the opportunity to invite any technical question from any member of the audience related to compliance with Land Development Code. Anybody here wishing to ask a question or make a comment? Seeing none, we have a motion at the dais. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward subject to satisfaction of outstanding comments. Thank you, Bob, and I think these next two are yours also. Number 16, the Finch Developer Agreement. Since we continued the previous item related to that, my recommendation is we continue this to the same date, February 16.
I agree, Mr. Chair.
Sure. We'll entertain a motion to continue to February 16, 2022. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 This item is continued to the February 16, 2022 TRC meeting at 8:30 a.m. in this location. Then we'll move to the very last item, the number 17, the Mussett Bayou Road Development Agreement. And I think this one's in the same condition, the actual project that this relates to. It's not on this agenda yet.
No, sir, it still had issues.
Do we have an idea as to when that project will come back?
I'm hoping for the same time period.
February 16?
Sure.
Recommend continuing this item to February 16?
Yes, sir, yes, I do.
We have a recommended motion. Do we have a motion of the dais to continue this to February 16th, TRC at 8:30 a.m. in this location?
Motion to continue.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Seeing none, this item is continued to 2022 at 8:30 a.m. in this location. And I think that concludes our agenda this morning. Thank you, Bob. Thanks to the TRC members. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion, we have a second.
Second.
Favor, please say aye.
Aye.